My name is Sarah Mitchell, and before I became the perfect housewife, I was the forensic accountant who sent 3 CEOs to federal prison for embezzlement. 19 years ago, I gave up that career to raise my children with a man I thought was honest. 3 months ago, I discovered just how wrong I was. You know that feeling when your whole world shifts in a single moment? When everything you believed about your life turns out to be a lie? I felt that standing in the rain at my parents' funeral, dirt hitting their caskets, when my husband David leaned over and whispered 6 words that shattered everything. "Sarah, I want a divorce. It's over." Not, "I'm sorry for your loss," not, "I love you." Just a cold business transaction delivered at the worst moment of my life. While my children stood there crying for their grandparents, their father was calculating the perfect moment to destroy what was left of our family. I stood there in shock, holding my 8-year-old Emma's trembling hand, watching my teenagers Tyler and Jessica try not to fall apart. The rain kept falling, and all I could think was, why now? Why here? Why at the moment when I needed him most? But David had forgotten something crucial about the woman he was discarding. He'd forgotten that before I became his convenient wife, I was someone who built careers destroying financial predators. And I was about to remember exactly who I used to be. That night, while David was working late, which I now know meant he was with someone else, I found my mother's final gift. Hidden in her old recipe box was an envelope with my name on it and a small key I'd never seen before. My hands shook as I read her letter, dated just 2 weeks before she died. "My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, then David is exactly who I suspected he was. The key opens Safety Deposit Box 347 at First National Bank. Inside is the truth about your marriage. Remember, sweetheart, you used to catch criminals for a living. It's time to catch one more." If you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have known better, hit that subscribe button. Today you'll learn why betraying a forensic accountant is the most expensive mistake a man can make. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if someone destroyed your world at your most vulnerable moment? The next morning, I drove to that bank with my mother's key, my heart pounding. The safety deposit box contained 2 years of surveillance photos that made my stomach turn. David kissing a blonde woman outside Romano's restaurant, the same place where he'd proposed to me 20 years ago. Hotel receipts, jewelry store purchases, weekend trips to places we'd never been together. My mother had hired Marcus Webb, a former FBI agent turned private investigator. When I called him, his voice was gentle but direct. "Mrs. Mitchell, your mother suspected your husband was having an affair. She had no idea we'd uncover a federal crime." A federal crime. Those words hit me like ice water. What kind of crime? Embezzlement. Your husband has been systematically stealing from his firm's client escrow funds. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, Sarah. I sat in that bank parking lot, staring at photos of my husband's betrayal, and felt something inside me that had been dormant for 19 years start to wake up. The forensic accountant, the woman who used to trace money through shell companies and offshore accounts, the woman who never let a criminal escape justice. But rebuilding those skills after 19 years felt like learning to walk again. Marcus guided me through the legal boundaries with the precision of someone who testified in federal court. "We can't hack his accounts, Sarah. That would be illegal and inadmissible. But we can trace public records, credit applications, business filings. I have contacts at credit agencies who can flag suspicious patterns. Your husband's been sloppy with his paper trail," Marcus told me. "He's using his real name on everything because he thinks he's untouchable. Criminals always are when they think they're smarter than everyone else." What about the bank records I found in Mom's safety deposit box? Those were obtained legally through surveillance of his activities in public spaces. Everything we're doing will hold up in court. The investigation took 8 months. 8 long months of pretending everything was normal during the day, while spending my nights learning to be a forensic accountant again. Some evenings, I'd sit at my kitchen table with spreadsheets and bank records, feeling like I was trying to remember a language I used to speak fluently. I remember one moment 3 months in when I almost quit. I was sitting in my car outside David's office watching him laugh with colleagues who had no idea they worked with a thief. The weight of what I was doing hit me, and I felt overwhelmed. Then my phone rang. It was Tyler. "Mom, Dad forgot my basketball championship again. He promised he'd be there." That's when I remembered. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for 3 children who deserved better than a father who saw them as inconveniences. After I hung up, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just crying. Not the pretty tears you see in movies, but ugly, choking sobs that made my whole body shake. What was I doing? Was I destroying my children's father out of spite? Was I the vindictive ex-wife David would paint me as? For a moment I considered just stopping, taking whatever settlement he offered and trying to move on quietly. Then I thought about that baby, David Mitchell Jr., 6 months old, being raised on money stolen from my children's college funds. I thought about Melissa getting jewellery I'd never seen while I was told we couldn't afford Emma's art supplies. No, this wasn't spite. This was justice. And my children deserved a mother who fought for what was right, not one who rolled over and accepted crumbs. The breakthrough came in month 4. Marcus discovered David had been systematically billing clients for hours he spent with his mistress. But the real shock was what Marcus found through his FBI contacts. "Sarah, you need to sit down for this." His voice was grim. "The woman in the photos, Melissa Parker, a junior CPA at Hartwell and Associates. She gave birth to a baby boy 6 months ago. The birth certificate lists David as the father." My coffee cup slipped from my hands and shattered on the kitchen floor. The sound seemed to come from underwater. "What did you say?" I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. "Your husband has a 6-month-old son with his mistress, David Mitchell Jr., born while you were caring for your dying parents." I doubled over, gasping for air like someone had punched me in the stomach. A baby. He had a baby with her while I was holding my mother's hand as she died. "How did you get the birth certificate? I thought those weren't public records." When Melissa eventually cooperated with federal investigators, she provided documentation to establish the timeline of David's financial support. The birth certificate was part of that evidence package, perfectly legal and admissible in court. I hung up the phone and sat in my kitchen, staring at the wall where our family photos hung. 20 years of marriage, 3 children, and David had created an entire second family while I was watching my parents die. That's when it clicked. David's divorce demand wasn't cruelty, it was a business plan. He needed to legitimize his new family and his stolen money. But David had made one fatal error. He'd forgotten that before I became his convenient wife, I was the woman who built airtight cases against white-collar criminals. And I was about to build the most important case of my career. I waited until David felt completely secure before I confronted him. He came home from dinner with Melissa and their baby, humming like a man without a care in the world. He had no idea I'd spent 8 months building a federal case against him. He was loosening his tie in our bedroom when I said it. "David, we need to discuss your son." He froze. "What son? Sarah, you're not making sense." I pulled out the birth certificate and watched 20 years of lies crumble in real time. David Mitchell Jr., born 6 months ago, to Melissa Parker. Father, David Mitchell. The same David Mitchell who told me we couldn't afford Emma's art supplies. His face went white. How did you... Sarah, please, let me explain. This isn't what you think. It's exactly what I think. My voice was steady, cold. You've been stealing from client escrow funds to pay for a luxury apartment for your mistress and your illegitimate son. $800,000, David. That's how much you've stolen while telling our children we couldn't afford family vacations. That's when I saw something I'd never seen before. David was genuinely terrified. His hands were shaking as he reached for his phone. I need to call Melissa. I need to explain... Explain what? I stepped closer. That your wife knows about your crimes, that the FBI will be visiting Morrison and Associates tomorrow morning, that every news outlet in Dallas is about to learn about the respected CPA who stole nearly $1 million to fund his affair? David's composure finally shattered completely. This successful, arrogant man collapsed into our bedroom chair and started crying, actual tears streaming down his face. Sarah, please, I'll do anything. I'll give you everything, the house, my retirement, full custody. Just don't destroy my career. Think about what this will do to the kids. I stared at this man I'd lived with for 19 years and I felt nothing, no love, no pity, no regret, just cold, professional satisfaction. Now you're worried about our children? When you were stealing their college funds to buy jewelry for your girlfriend? When you were missing their games and recitals to play house with your secret family? I never meant for any of this to happen. Melissa, the baby, it just got complicated. Complicated. That's what David called creating an entire second family with stolen money. Here's what's going to happen, David. I've already submitted everything to the FBI, the state board, and the media. The arrest warrant has been issued. They could come for you at any moment. The formal complaints are filed. Every news outlet in Texas will have the full story by tomorrow morning that David Mitchell, respected CPA and family man, is actually a thief who abandoned his children for a woman young enough to be his daughter. You can't do this to me, Sarah. I'm the father of your children. No, David. You're a stranger who's been living in my house for 19 years. The father of my children would never steal their futures to fund an affair. The father of my children would never ask for a divorce at their grandparents' funeral. That's when David realized he wasn't facing the broken woman from the cemetery anymore. He was facing the forensic accountant who'd sent CEOs to federal prison, and I'd just spent 8 months building the most airtight case of my career against him. Tuesday morning at exactly 9 a.m., FBI agents walked into Morrison and Associates. The timing was perfect. Marcus had been monitoring the federal task force's schedule, and they moved faster than even I had hoped. According to Marcus, who was positioned across the street, David's arrest was everything I'd hoped for. He was led out in handcuffs in front of his colleagues, his clients, and Melissa, who was in the lobby with baby David Mitchell Jr., completely unaware that her world was about to implode too. The media coverage was immediate and devastating. The news outlets had been alerted the previous evening when the formal complaints were filed, so they were ready. Respected Dallas CPA steals $800K for secret family. By noon, every news station in Texas was running the story. David's mugshot appeared next to our wedding photo. The contrast was perfect. Melissa's reaction surprised everyone. When FBI agents interviewed her, she broke down completely. I had no idea about the embezzlement, she sobbed to investigators. David told me he was getting divorced, that he'd saved money for our future. I never knew he was stealing it. Her cooperation with prosecutors earned her immunity from criminal charges, but she lost her CPA license and her job. The woman who thought she was stealing my husband discovered she was just another one of his victims. The trial lasted 4 weeks. I testified for 2 full days, presenting the financial evidence with the same methodical precision I'd once used to convict corporate criminals. David's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive ex-wife, but numbers don't lie. $800,000 stolen, 43 fraudulent billing entries, 1 secret child funded entirely with embezzled money. When they asked me to address the court, I looked directly at David. "Your Honour, the defendant didn't just steal money. He stole 20 years of my life by making me believe I was married to an honest man. He stole my children's security by teaching them that fathers abandon families when something better comes along. Most importantly, he stole from clients who trusted him with their life savings." Judge Martinez sentenced David to 6 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution to all victims. As they led him away in shackles, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 20 years, complete peace. But the real victory came 3 months later. After a complete management overhaul and internal investigation, Morrison and Associates, under new leadership, offered me the position of Regional Director of Fraud Prevention. The board specifically wanted someone who had proven they could detect sophisticated financial crimes. At 43, I was earning more than I'd ever made, using my skills to protect other families from financial predators. My children struggled deeply. Tyler punched a hole in his bedroom wall the night after David's arrest, screaming that he hated having a criminal for a father. Jessica stopped eating for 2 weeks, convinced that if Dad could lie about everything, maybe I was lying too. Emma wet the bed for months, whimpering in her sleep about the bad man who stole our money. The therapy sessions were brutal, watching my babies try to process their father's betrayal. Tyler would sit in that chair, arms crossed, asking, "How do we know you won't leave us too, Mum?" Jessica drew pictures of our family with David's face scribbled out in black crayon. Emma would only sleep if I promised to check all the locks twice. But gradually, painfully, they began to see their mother differently, not as a victim, but as someone who'd fought back and won. 1 year after David's sentencing, Tyler looked at me with something I'd never seen before, genuine respect. "Mom," he said, "you taught us that actions have consequences, even for parents." Jessica squeezed my hand. "You showed us what real strength looks like." And Emma, now 10, looked up at me with complete trust. "Mommy, you kept us safe from the bad man." That's when I understood David's greatest miscalculation. He thought he was discarding a weak, dependent housewife. Instead, he'd awakened the forensic accountant who'd built her career destroying financial predators. And I'd just destroyed the biggest predator of my life. 2 years later, I'm the Regional Director of Fraud Prevention for the largest accounting firm in Texas. My office overlooks downtown Dallas, and every morning I can see the courthouse where David was sentenced. Tyler just started his freshman year at UT Austin on a full academic scholarship. Jessica's artwork was featured in a statewide competition. Emma is the most confident 11-year-old I know. David will be released from federal prison in 4 years. He'll be a convicted felon with no CPA license, no career prospects, and 3 children who barely remember him as a father. Melissa moved back to Houston with their son. She never visits David, never takes his calls. His second family abandoned him, just like he abandoned his first. People ask if I regret destroying David's life so completely. Here's my answer. I didn't destroy David's life. I simply stopped enabling his destruction of everyone around him. Every choice he made was his decision. I just made sure he faced the consequences. But here's the most important lesson I learned. You are never too broken, too scared, or too old to reclaim your power. I spent 19 years making myself smaller to accommodate a man who saw me as disposable. I let him convince me that my career, my dreams, my worth were less important than his comfort. The woman who stood at that funeral, shattered by betrayal, thought her life was ending. She was wrong. That woman's life was just beginning. Because sometimes the most beautiful transformations come from the darkest betrayals. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to discover, everything you actually need. If you're listening to this and seeing yourself in my story, if you're making excuses for someone else's bad behavior, accepting crumbs and calling them love, hiding your strength to protect someone else's ego, please hear this. You are worth more, you deserve better, and you have more power than you realize. Your story doesn't have to end with betrayal. It can begin there. If this story inspired you to reclaim your power, subscribe to Whispers of Revenge for more stories of justice served and strength discovered. Tell me in the comments, what would you do if you discovered your entire life was built on lies? Remember, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting ahead. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and this is your reminder that underestimating a mother's love for her children is the most expensive mistake anyone can make.